welcome. These will be my thoughts on Arrow Season 3, Episode 12, Uprising. The episode is rated TV-14, so this video there will be spoilers for the episode and Arrowverse leading up to it. Another episode that I absolutely loved. I wanted to start with just briefly. So I said this in my video on the Flash episode that I got to as well, but yeah, just in case, I want to make sure you know, it will be months before I do more Arrowverse. After this one, I'm going to do a season of The Walking Dead, and then a season of one of the Marvel shows. Then it's back to Arrowverse. Honestly, this is a pretty good place to take a break. This was really, really epic. And I guess this is also a decent place to put the video recommendation because it has absolutely nothing to do with this episode. It's just a really good video. And in the honor of Women's History Month, I have chosen one by a female YouTuber. In this case, it is Modern Girls. Why is every TV show Bridgerton now? Which I have to admit, based on the title, I was not sure if it would be my kind of thing. I gave it a chance because I almost always really love Modern Girls videos. I've learned so much, and yeah, I found it really fascinating. Especially appreciated her talking about like the history of this kind of story, which frequently is where I kind of tend to zone out when people go into the history, which sucks because I appreciate that that is like incredibly important context. And yeah, let's start with the deleted scenes before I go into the episode itself. So there's really only one deleted scene, and it's basically, I am afraid I did not catch his name, but the guy working for Malcolm, who I guess is one of the only people, he said that he doesn't have much of a network anymore since he died, which I think it might just be this guy, maybe the driver also. And yeah, he confirms, as we are told in the actual episode, yeah, Brick was the one who killed. It was not Wells, the guy that yeah. And it sets up the thing that is later, I think it's Oliver he tells it to, that the thing about how, the yeah, his decisions were born from the fruit of a poisonous tree, I think it was. Yeah. So yeah, not a bad scene, probably cut for time, ultimately not something we really needed to be in the episode. So before I get into the scene by scene, since it is Women's History Month, I wanted to start by talking about the female characters. And it was great seeing Cindy again. I feel a little bit bad about some of the other characters who care deeply about, because like Sin almost immediately learns, like, I guess technically Dinah Senior also quite quickly learned, but yeah, Lance, at least until the end of this before the end of this episode, he thought that Sarah was still alive. And yeah, really, really appreciate. I mentioned that in an earlier video, wanting to see how she reacts to, I suppose technically she doesn't know for sure if Sarah is dead, but she knows that someone else is Canary, and she has not seen Sarah for a while now. And yeah, as usual, great. I really loved the part where she and the rest of the reinforcements walk out, and I really like the decision that she is armed with a bat, because that's the kind of thing that can really help even out the odds. Because, like, she's not like huge, muscular, so she needs a little bit help. But yeah, like swinging a bat, like, that's something a lot of Americans learn as children. So makes a lot of sense that that would be, and it's also easy to get your hands on. It's not like she's got like a rocket launcher or something. Now, I think that pretty much covers, right, when Roy, did he lie to her? I guess he said we'll have to talk about that afterwards. So he maybe doesn't lie, but he is not telling her either about Sarah. And yeah, I'm really, I feel it's going to be hard to wait. But this is the choice I made. I'm living with it. Nobody forced this on me. Yeah, like finding out how Quentin is going to react, because they even, he says, no, but I talked to her, and Sin says, it's not Sarah. That's, yeah, Quentin is going to find out that he's been lied to, or I guess has found out that he's been lied to, and yeah, I think that covers Sin. I like the stuff with Thea. The thing about how, she is trying to train, but she's also like, this is very intense, and she's like, she didn't sign up for it. And yeah, I appreciated that, when Malcolm says, when you hesitate, you end up dead, and she says, and there's the thing about, like, she's not a killer. She's not pretending to be. I really appreciate, like, really right from the start. Like, she's gone through some changes over the course of these 2.5 seasons so far, but she tends to have, like, integrity. Like, she knows, yeah. So really appreciate that. And once again, a really cool fight between her and Malcolm. And yeah, I appreciated, her telling Roy, really resolved. Yeah. And I was a little surprised that by the end, yeah, Roy was, yeah, because he says he was outvoted, and there's only 4 of them. Like, that's an even number, so I guess he, by the end of that, was the only one voting in favor of Malcolm. And I think that covers right, I liked the part where, yeah, Oliver shows up, and the thing about, like, oh, I've been in a jail cell. I thought I was over it too. And she's like, can you just take it outside? I know you're gonna beat each other up. Like, she's essentially resigned to it. No, seriously though, she does try to. She's like, okay, she is trying to. I don't know exactly what she was gonna say, but she's clearly trying to de-escalate the situation. And then it's, oh, you get, there's even a handshake, and she's like, okay, this is the least interesting dream I've had in a little while, but I guess that's a relief in some ways. Okay, and I think the next to talk about should be Laurel, and then after that Felicity, because with Laurel there's again some really great, yeah, I noticed she is still every so often getting hit in these fights, and I quite liked, yeah, she convinces Wildcat to come out of retirement, and you have the line about, I'm glad you're a better fighter than liar. And he also points out, I said you weren't ready. Yeah. And, he doesn't fully appreciate the circumstance yet. And let's see, I appreciated that she was at least at first willing to consider. She ended up deciding against working with Malcolm, but she was considering it. And let's see, I guess, so, as I mentioned earlier, if I don't mention it, please assume that I think the action is awesome. That remains the case. It was really cool seeing such a large group. Like, I appreciate they obviously cannot do that every episode, but it's really cool to see. It's reminiscent of the season 2 finale. And yeah, I love this thing of, the, yeah, the Glades standing up for the Glades. And I think, I mean, that is something we're seeing these days. Like, it is extremely important. I'm not talking about, like, in real life, it's not so much like beating up criminals, but it's a vigilante story. So, But in real life, like we're seeing, a lot of the time, it's up to regular people, like community, to help take care of each other because, countries like America, you can't always depend on public servants living up to that title. And I think that does bring us to, yeah, I really appreciated her complimenting Felicity. The way that they, like when the phone call, is this a favor? Are we favor friends? Or, is this a friend favor? Are we friends? She was like, what? but here they're growing on each other. And I quite appreciate that. And that's also, very consistently, like when Laurel sees, okay, this is a person who really goes above and beyond to do good, she does not really, like, she's not unwilling to say, you did really well here. And I think that does cover that entire, yeah, so Felicity. Felicity. Why must they break my heart? As soon as I realized that this was the episode when Oliver would return to Starling City, and draw a bat on the side of a building, I really wanted them to kiss again and for them to talk more about how they love each other. And then, I sort of got the talk about loving each other, but not exactly how I hoped. But other than that, I also wanted to talk about, yeah, it was really great that, her helping, the, it's not super new, but still, like, it is the situation is really getting out of control in the Glades, and her actually keeping a cool head. And yeah, and also the line about, why are they calling 911? Don't they know they won't get help? And let's see, yeah, her talking to Quentin, and yeah, them trying to organize was also really compelling. And yeah, so she found out, oh, Brick shot Rebecca Merlin. And then, that was also like, Malcolm has a camera. He is watching what they say, which helps explain, he is very well informed. And yeah, the part where he is in the Arrow Cave. So every so often, we see Felicity get a bit flustered, nervous. And I loved that they had her completely like a rock, an immovable object when Malcolm was there. There was no like, oh no, Malcolm Merlin is here. He's going to kill us. It's just like, are you for real right now? Are you seriously standing right in front of us? Just, yeah. There was no, yeah. And like, unbroken eye contact too, I think. Like, just, she was not at all, like, she's uncomfortable around him, but she's not going to let him have the satisfaction of feeling like he's intimidating her, which I'm not sure he would feel, but, she does not know him. She hasn't, most of the time she's spent around him, he's been just the absolute worst. So we can understand, yeah. And I think that does, yeah, I think she was the one who said, I can't believe we're actually going to have a conversation about working with Malcolm. And call him a monster or something along those lines, just, yeah. And yeah, I understand why. I don't blame her, but it does really hurt to see that she's, yeah, she does not want to be a woman that Oliver loves. And that was the thing. We were told, you will have to give up that which you love the most. Which actually just reminds me, yeah, so there's obviously, I'm sorry, Tatsu, love your character. I don't know how I forgot. So last, not least, and briefly talk about Nissa was a badass, even as an actual child. She's standing there, she just takes off, and Malcolm's like, I'm not going to fight you. Then why are you here? Like, he's like twice her height, quadruple her weight, but she's like, did you see that you walked through a door? I'm sorry. Who took down the sign that says if you walk through this door, you're gonna have your ass kicked by a 10-year-old? I'm telling my father. Anyway, yeah, so, and that's how he got the name Magician. Very, very clever. And, yeah, yeah, Tatsu, I appreciated that she did follow him a little out, but she's not rejoining the world, at least not yet. I wouldn't rule out down the line. She took a few steps out of the comfort zone, and yeah, their conversation was really great. And this thing of like, there's only the student can defeat the master, which there is a lot of truth to it. I think I feel like I have heard that as like an actual like lesson from a martial arts philosophy or something along those lines, And yeah, very clever. Like, yeah, we were thinking like, is Maseo gonna, or Sarab at this point, gonna help Oliver? And then no, he's gonna train with Malcolm. Very, very smart. And Malcolm immediately understands the idea there. But yeah, she does not follow. She gives him the medicine and instructions. I wish more doctors would just do it that way instead of writing gobbledygook on a piece of paper. I'm kidding. Actually, I'm not even sure. Do we do that around here? Or is it just that I always compulsively write down what the doctor says? But I think that's more of a, like, I've just seen so many memes of people, complaining that their doctor wrote yeah, like, I don't know, I guess some kind of stamp, solution is, I get not taking forever to carefully write it down really legibly, but yeah, it is like, I mean, squiggly line is not going to help by itself. Yeah, that I believe covers all of the female characters. But yeah, this was a very strong episode for the women of the show once again. Yeah, so gonna try to keep this more or less scene by scene. Yeah, it was really cool that the flashbacks were not only to Malcolm rather than any of the other main or major cast, but so far back. They had to actually, I forget if we've seen them before, but it's certainly been a while since we saw child versions of Tommy and Oliver. And it really messes with our emotions to see Malcolm, like, yeah, as he says to, I think, Oliver, he was a good father once. He, like, just look at him comforting Tommy and contrast that with all their other interactions, all the interactions they had since Tommy came of age. Like, the most recent one we saw, we didn't even see Malcolm, but we could practically hear him roll his eyes through the phone as Tommy, told him, just go sleep with your, was it, yoga instructor, and then hung up on him, like, yeah. And he even does the magic trick with both Tommy and Nissa. And nowadays, not so much. I mean, it's not like it would be impossible for him to still do. It's a very basic trick. Although I suppose, when is he interacting with children? I'm not sure how strong an impression it would make on any of the adults. You know what? Maybe he should have, if one of them would have let him close enough, maybe he should have pulled a coin out from behind the ear. I think if he tried that in the Arrow Cave, I think if he tried that with Felicity, he would be limping away with a squeaky voice. And I think, and I'm not saying that she's like, usually getting violent, but I think that might be a situation where it would. Yeah, oh, and I wanted to also underline just briefly Riley Fukushima, adding to the subtle acting. Love the little, she doesn't quite smile. Or, it's not even quite a smirk, but there's this subtle thing she does with her lips when Oliver, I think it's before they leave to go anywhere, and they're having a conversation. He says something, and then she does this little, very, very subtle thing. Just, yeah. And that's also, I really appreciate how complex their relationship has gotten, because, like, for a while she didn't like him in the flashbacks way back, then she appreciated because he helped save her life. But now that, she thought she was out, but they keep pulling her back in. And now Oliver is being difficult about the healing, not taking the time that he needs. And yeah, just really complex. Appreciate that. And I definitely would not rule out that them saying, because he says, Ra's al Ghul is great with swords. You used to be as well. Maybe you could come with me? I think there might be a payoff to that, but I suppose it's possible that that is just them saying, no, she's not going to, because she does say no, at least for now, but I mean, she knows he lives in Starling City. If she shows up somewhere and right, and she knows that in reality he's Oliver Queen, if you go to Starling City and try to find Oliver Queen, that is like doable, even if she doesn't know anyone except him. And let's see, I guess that does bring us to the but yeah, I think I will just briefly go over the rest of the way that over the course of the flashbacks, yeah, because the first flashback we actually see before, that when there's a knock at the door, they think that's Rebecca, and he is like, oh, what's going on, and they hold down the hat, which is like the cop version of flag at half-mast. So yeah, like immediately, and you just see it in his face, like that really is his world collapsing, which we knew, but seeing it hits different. I thought it worked really well how much of this episode was about, like, can he be redeemed? Like, because I found myself throughout the episode genuinely not sure if it was going to end with him killing Brick or sparing him, because Oliver points out, yes, you've made mistakes, but you know what? You can make the right choice now. And that's such an important thing. I love that that's in something, this is, yeah, I'm sure a bunch of teenagers did watch this when it was on air. And that's such an important thing, because like I remember being a child and teenager and being told over and over, basically if you make a mistake, that's it. Like there's nothing you can do. And that's such a terrible thing to teach a young person, because that doesn't mean that they're never going to make a mistake. It just means that they're going to be completely devastated emotionally when it happens. We're all going to everybody makes mistakes. That is simply a fact of life. The important thing is what you do to try to make it right and try to learn from them. If you tell people that they're fundamentally broken if they make even one mistake, other than what I've already mentioned, another thing you get is that they'll just be in denial about their mistakes. I mean, that's one of the things we're seeing with Trump right now. He refuses to admit that he's clearly made mistakes, It's quite... obvious in his handling of Iran right now, for example. The attacks, the bombings. And I hope nonviolently, politically, through, proper channels, that he is removed from office as soon as possible, because I forget who, but I saw someone recently point out he can barely string a sentence together at this point. He keeps falling asleep on camera, it just, yeah. And the thing where also seeing Malcolm say goodbye to Tommy, and we knew, again, we were already told that happened, but to see a child actor, like, you promised you would never leave. You would never leave. You said you'd never leave, and it's just, yeah. And the funeral was also really touching. Yeah, I thought it worked incredibly well to have that. I mean, I don't know if they're giving him a redemption arc, but certainly this, if they are, this is a step in that direction. It's also possible that they are gonna, like, have it be that now he, in one of the next episodes, maybe he will do something that says that he is the same, And I do also appreciate Oliver saying, "You turned my sister into a weapon." And I think that is it for the flashbacks. So yeah, right, it worked really well. That, I think, might actually be the first thing you see after the previously on, but the TV, this debate about, what do we do about the Glades? And then, like, we see the TV that was showing it be smashed. Like, they must have rehearsed that to get the timing exactly right, because, like, one tiny mistake and you just broke a screen without, like, it's fine to break it as long as you get it on camera, but yeah. And I felt they did a good job on, it's not just Laurel, it is also Roy. They are out of their depth. They just can't quite, yeah. And without Oliver, and for some of this also, you know, yeah, the people of the town. Anyway, I think that is what I wanted to say about that. Yeah, and Brick, as usual, is the thing about, well, if you can take me out, seeing as how this gun says Desert Eagle across. I gotta watch more of the. I do actually own a copy. I already did a video on it, so that's not. I'm not doing another video on, but I should rewatch. I don't think it's been that long since I last watched Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, but yeah. And it's not even like he's the only great part of, like, it's a stacked cast. Everyone does so well. Even, ones who barely have, any screen time, they have screen presence. Anyway, the what was the there's at least one more thing that I really wanted to say about the very clever, the thing about, well, it's, that we can't find them through, and Felicity genuinely, like, really distraught that she's not, she sometimes struggles to, if something is completely out of her control, if there's something where she feels like she should be able to help and she can't, that's something she is really, that, yeah, she struggles to accept. She does not take that lying down, And but yeah, the thing about, oh, they had walkie-talkies, Felicity, can you do something about that? You haven't been down here very long. and yeah, I believe it is in fact accurate that you can do that with walkie-talkies. What she said. And I think, was it around here? Yeah, the part where, right, Arsenal. Pick these names out of a hat now, and then she's like, I gotta go. Do you think she would have said that even if nobody had called? Because it's like, okay, Quentin, you're a lot. You're being a lot right now. But but yeah, So, Roy, I don't know. I've seen you fire arrows. Do you really think I wouldn't be able, do you think I wouldn't be able to recognize you just because I can't see your cheekbones? That wasn't the worst line. I did not hate that line in that movie. Other things about that movie, but not that particular one. I appreciate commenting on it is sometimes silly that suddenly they can't recognize this person even though they know what they look like, you know and it's just a tiny if it's just the domino mask covering, yeah. And I like, Roy just goes ahead and like, well, I guess I'll conserve the energy, turn off the voice modulator. And I think that is the but yeah, really, really cool when they attacked Brick. And yeah, like they're trying, but they just can't quite make it. And him using, like, what was it, like flare shotgun rounds, like, I have a soft spot for when people use, that's one of those things. Some people who like do action with in fiction with guns, like some of them just don't realize, like, there's so much more you can do just have people shoot each other. Like, use some of this, like, special ammo. Like, that is a real thing. Like, I forget about flare. I used to know that when I was a teenager. I learned a bunch about guns. Sometimes from first-person shooters, but certainly some, special ammo is real. Not quite like, I mean, something like Bioshock is like, okay, that does not exist in the real world. But yeah, there are special kinds of ammo, and I can certainly imagine you could work flares into, and that cops would have that, because it's not necessarily meant to kill, but it's very disorienting. And yeah, like Malcolm afterwards points out, saved your lives. He's not wrong. Like, Brick would have, like, he's literally telling the rest of his guys, so when we have our gun on one of them, we shoot. And yeah, let's see, I think the next thing might have been I will say, before we saw Dig walk down an alley, and evidently that's where they had agreed to meet. But I was thinking, like, how are they gonna communicate with Malcolm? Do they have his contact info? Is one of them gonna have to ask Thea for it, or But yeah, and I think that is about it for yeah, the part where the yeah, I guess I have said what I really wanted to about that. Yeah, so we have yeah, the part near the end. Yeah, he came really close to taking him out, and Oliver manages to talk him out of killing Brick. And I really appreciated that Brick, he does not beg for mercy or anything. And, yeah, he's like, I don't remember killing your wife. I doubt I'll remember you killing me. And, yeah, that distinction where Malcolm said she was good, she was decent, and Brick says she was weak, because those are the perspectives of someone who you know, loves and wants a family, and someone who just wants power. You know, I suppose if he wasn't a gang member, he'd be a fascist, and there is some, overlap there. A fascist dictatorship is somewhat like a gang that's taken over a country. I think, yeah, it was great when Oliver inspired the city. Oh, also the part where you have failed the city. That was another great. Yeah, and yeah, Oliver knows. I mean, I'm guessing at Nanda Parbat they do have TVs because like they already know that Oliver and Green Arrow is one of the same. I mean, even if they at first think, could there be someone else taking up the mantle? I feel like they're probably gonna check. They're gonna go to the Arrow Cave that they already know where is and can access without anyone letting them in. Yeah. So it's yeah. I think that pretty much covers the yeah. I right. I like the part where so yeah, Felicity worried about the duo out in the field. Roy, are you there? It's me, Margaret. I mean Felicity. Also the part where she said she doesn't normally believe in hell, but she hopes that it exists for people like Malcolm Merlin. Also the part about balancing the scales doesn't mean so much when you've taken out 503 people. And the point about it did not make anything any better, it did not make the pain go away. And that's again such an important thing for young people to understand, because listen, at some point in our lives all of us are going to get an idea in our head that we absolutely should not act on. And for many it will be revenge. It's not necessarily going to be like murder, but it might be assault. And assault is a crime. It goes on, so then you have a criminal record, can make it difficult to get a job. I'm not speaking from experience, but these are things that, like, there's so many young people and so many of them, they regret it as soon as it's over. Like I've lost count of how many times I've seen a story where the young person was like, I shouldn't have done that. I was just so angry. So it's extremely important to show this. Yeah. Revenge rarely gives us the catharsis that we think it will. And yeah, I loved Oliver saying, I will never leave you again, which is quite the vote of confidence in Malcolm's ability to train him to defeat Raish. And let's see, I think that does pretty much bring us to the I love that Sin is still calling Roy Abercrombie after all this time. Like, for real, they've known each other for like over a season now. I guess, yeah, in universe it's like a year since they first met or something. That's still how she, yeah. And I think that is everything. See, I'm making absolutely sure, because it's going to be months before I talk about the show again. I don't want to accidentally forget something. Yeah, let's see. I feel like there's at least one more thing I really wanted to make sure to say. Okay, so I'm just mentally going to real quick fast forward through the entire episode. Let's talk about flashbacks. Let's talk about Oliver's scenes and the yeah, right. I definitely, the fact that yeah, all the lying about Sarah still being alive, and now Sin knows Canary, whoever's Canary right now is not Sarah. And she told, Quentin. I also like the line, never thought I'd say, I'm glad you brought the cops back. And let's see, and it's one of those things. If it's, ideally, cops do help citizens. So I think that does pretty much. Okay, there's at least one more thing. Yeah, just really, really looking forward to more. You know that feeling you get sometimes when you look at a show and it's like, oh wow, there are a lot of episodes left, and you're almost kind of intimidated. You're not sure you're going to be able to stick all the way through. I have not experienced that in a while now, despite doing some very long shows. Yeah, I did also. I really appreciated that Thea, there's the thing about, like, are you here to tell me that I'm a monster? Because there's a line. Does the line only include people who do know that you're back to life? Because I suppose, doesn't that make it shorter? But then on the other hand, he's practically alienated everyone who knows he is still alive right now. So yeah, it really is this the guy, who worked for him, was it 21 years prior, and still. But yeah, and she tries to appeal to him, and I really appreciate that about her. I try to myself, as the try to be able to see the positive in people who've done something wrong. It's so important. And I'm not saying everybody should be forgiven, but sometimes, sometimes we can be quick to judge someone, and we got to be careful about that. And yeah, but yeah, she tries to talk to him, and then he starts laying it out to her, and she gets this this look on her face that yeah, I and many others recognize that is a player stuck watching an unskippable cutscene.